بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. I remind you to have a sincere intention in your heart, seeking reward from Allah Ta'ala by attending the lesson. In our previous lesson, we had spoken about the sins of the heart. In today's lesson, inshallah, we will talk about the sins of the 7 body parts, and we will start by talking about the sins of the abdomen. In the upcoming lessons, inshallah, we will talk about the sins of the hand, the sins of the foot, the sins of the eye, and other sins as well. But today, inshallah, we will talk about the sins of the abdomen. So, among the sins of the abdomen are to consume the acquisition of riba. Now, riba is of many types, and inshallah, we will mention later on some of these types. But the acquisition, consuming the acquisition of riba is among the sins of the abdomen. This means to utilize and benefit from the product of a riba transaction, whether it is food that is orally being consumed or other than that. So all persons involved in the riba contract bear the sin. They are sinful. All the people involved in the riba contract, they are sinful, whether it is the person who is accepting or offering the riba commodity, or whether the person who is drawing up the riba document, or the person who is witnessing the riba contract, the riba transaction. All these are sinful. They commit a sin by doing that. Okay, so the riba contract is a sinful contract. So to consume the acquisition of riba is among the sins of the abdomen. Also, among the sins of the abdomen is to consume the revenues of taxes. Taxes here refer to what some unjust rulers impose on people's trade and what is similar to that. They take a specific amount unjustly, so they are not to take that amount. So consuming that money from the revenue of taxes is among the sins of the body, of the abdomen in specific. Also among the sins of the abdomen is to consume the money of others taken from them by force. So if somebody took money from another person by force, and then he consumed that money, for example, he bought something with it and ate that thing, for example. So this is sinful to do. This money that they took from others unjustly by force is not theirs. It was not their money to take. So consuming that money is among the sins of the abdomen. Okay, so consuming here means, like I gave an example, for instance, the person took money from others by force and then used that money to buy, for instance, food and ate that food. This is here an example, and this is among the sins of the abdomen. Okay, they took that money from others unjustly. It is not theirs. Whether now it was taken by force or was stolen from them. Stealing here is defined as taking others' money stealthily. So even if it is not by force, even if the person stole money from others in hiding, not by using force, still that is a sin, and consuming that unjustly stolen money is among the sins of the abdomen. Okay? Or to consume anything that is acquired through a transaction that is prohibited in Islamic law. like some of the forbidden dealings that we have previously mentioned, and there are many other dealings. There are many dealings, contracts that many people are involved with nowadays that do not comply with the religious laws. Unfortunately, many people today neglect learning the matters pertaining to transactions. You know, the scholars of Islam, when they taught others about Islam, and they also mentioned in their books a whole chapter about dealings. How is the dealing lawful? How is it conducted in a lawful way? And what makes it unlawful? What makes it invalid? They mention these matters. So it is important then upon the person who wants to get involved in a particular business dealing, for example, to acquire, to learn the matters pertaining to this dealing so that one does not commit a sin, does not fall into committing a sin when conducting a particular dealing. So consuming money taken through a transaction that is prohibited in Islamic law is also among the sins of the abdomen. One is not to consume that money acquired through a dealing that was conducted in a way that is prohibited according to the Islamic law, according to the Sharia. Now, also among the sins of the abdomen is to drink wine. Which is any drink that alters the state of mind along with causing drunkenness and euphoria. So this is sinful to consume. And it is among al-kaba'ir, the enormous sins. There is a prescribed punishment for the one who drinks wine in the Islamic law, referred to as al-had in Arabic. This is a prescribed legal punishment. Now, what is that punishment for the one who does that, for the one who drinks wine? The prescribed legal punishment of the drinker who is free, meaning is not a slave, is 40 lashes. Now, who does that? This is if there was a caliphate, for example, a caliph, a Muslim ruler. But today there is no caliph, okay? So it does not mean that we take it upon ourselves and do that to the person who drank wine. No, okay, no. This is the job of the caliph, the Muslim ruler. He would do that, or he assigns somebody to do that. But today there is no caliph, okay? So we do not do that ourselves, all right? But if there was a caliph, this is the prescribed legal punishment in Sharia, in the Islamic law. And I want to draw your attention to an important matter here. We believe there is wisdom behind these judgments. So when we say there is a prescribed punishment in the Islamic law for a person who commits a particular sin, we do not say about it that this is ruthless or that this is unjust. We don't say anything negative about it. No, there is wisdom behind these judgments. I want you to think with me here. Isn't alcohol drinking today widely spread? It is, unfortunately. It is. Many people consume alcohol nowadays, and it is an enormous sin, subhanallah. And don't many who drink alcohol commit then further sins? Yes, many of them do, subhanallah. So imagine if there was a caliph and this caliph was applying the Islamic rulings, and one of them is to perform this particular punishment. Do you think alcohol drinking would continue spreading more or would become less? I think it would become less. And probably you would as well. It would become less, because many people who commit this sin, they would know, there is a consequence for this, okay? And so this might deter them from further drinking. And when they are deterred from further drinking alcohol, this is what is good for them. It is good for them not to continue drinking alcohol. It is good for them not to commit a sin, whether big or small. So again, there is wisdom behind these prescribed punishments that are in the Islamic law. And it's very important not to speak negatively about them. Now, in this case here, we were talking about the prescribed legal punishment in regards to the person who drinks wine. But you probably heard there is also a punishment in regards to the person who commits fornication, for instance, zina, or the person, who commits other types of sins. So also here, I remind you not to say about them that they are unjust in any way, because these are rules in the religion and there is wisdom behind them, okay? So we do not say that they are unjust. We do not say that they are not fair. No, not at all. Because nowadays, unfortunately, we hear people speak negatively about Islam. They don't know themselves much about Islam, or, subhanAllah, they have hatred in their hearts towards Muslims. So they want to defame Islam and they speak negatively about these prescribed legal punishments. So it's important not to go along with them and not to speak negatively in any way about these prescribed punishments. Rather, we say there is wisdom behind these punishments. Okay? SubhanAllah, many of the crimes that we are seeing nowadays, many of the sins that are widely spread nowadays, and not just among adults, but among many youth as well. If these prescribed punishments were applied, many would not be committing these crimes. Many would not be committing these sins. SubhanAllah. So we said then that the prescribed punishment for the one who drinks alcohol and is free is 40 lashes. And for the one who is a slave, it is half of that, so it is 20 lashes. Also, among the sins of the abdomen is to consume whatever solid substance is intoxicating. So intoxication here means to induce loss of the mental faculty, along with causing drunkenness and euphoria, as was previously mentioned. So it is also sinful to consume solid substance that is intoxicating, okay? Also among the sins of the abdomen is to consume what is prohibited, such as najas filth. Okay, najas filth, like what? Like, for example, blood. Okay, this is najas filthy. Or like pork. Pork is the meat from the pig. This is unlawful for us to consume. And also, it is unlawful for us to consume meta, an animal that died and was not slaughtered according to Islamic law, an edible animal that died and was not slaughtered according to Islamic law. So some people say, okay, they are not eating pork, they are not eating meat from pig, but they eat maybe meat from a cow, but this cow was maybe killed through being shot. This is maita. It was not slaughtered according to Islamic law by a Muslim, for example. So shooting this cow this cow is then meta. It is not lawful for us to eat the meat of this cow now. So we need to be careful. Even if the person is living in a place where it's hard maybe for this person to find halal meat, it does not mean we resort to eating what is unlawful. No, we wait. We don't consume what is unlawful for us to consume. We do not want to consume what is najis, nor do we want to feed our children what is najis, filthy. Okay, subhanAllah, this has an effect on the person. So we said then it is prohibited to consume any impure, that is any najis, filthy, such as blood or pork or maita, meat, or eating any revolting substance, even if it is not judged as najis, filthy, but it is judged as something that is revolting, okay, such as mucus, for example. Mucus. This is not lawful for us to eat. Also, among the sins of the abdomen is to unrightfully consume the money of an orphan. SubhanAllah, many people might fall into this sin. Now, who is the orphan? Let us first define the orphan. Islamically, an orphan is a child who is not pubescent yet, whose father died. So this child is not yet pubescent and his father died. This child now is called an orphan. Now, when this child becomes pubescent, he's not called an orphan anymore. No. So this orphan, this child who is not pubescent yet, and his or her father died, this child is referred to as an orphan. And the person who is the guardian now of the orphan, when the father died, the person who is now the guardian of the orphan should be very careful in how to deal with the money that is for the orphan, because many people might use this orphan's money in ways that they are not supposed to. SubhanAllah. So it's very important to be careful and ask the scholars of Islam, ask the people of knowledge, what is okay to do with the money of the orphan, what is not, for what am I using this money, is it of benefit to the orphan or not? So one needs to really ask, because on the day of judgment, we will be questioned. SubhanAllah. So among then the sins of the abdomen is to unrightfully consume the money of an orphan. Also, it is prohibited to consume the money that comes from a religious charitable trust, referred to as waqf in Arabic, in a way that is contrary to the conditions set by the one who endowed it. I'll give an example, inshallah. So if a person dedicates a house as waqf, okay, he says this is waqf to shelter poor people. All right, he bought a house, or he had a house, and then he said, this house now is waqf, dedicated to the poor people. So this house then is for that purpose what he dedicated it for. Okay, and it is not permissible for other than poor people to live in it, because the person who dedicated this house, who said that this house is waqf now, he dedicated it for the poor people. So it's for that purpose, and it's not, for example, for the rich ones to go and benefit from this house. Okay. A person might also dedicate a particular place for students learning the Islamic knowledge. And so people who are not learning the Islamic knowledge would not then stay in that house, for example. In the past, there were more waqf than there are today. Okay, there were particular things dedicated for particular reasons, and then they were to be used for that particular reason. Also, among the sins of the abdomen is to consume what was obtained by way of shyness without the goodwill of the giver. What does this mean? For example, if one asks another to give him money in the presence of a group of people, knowing that this person now would not turn him down out of shyness. Really, this person does not want to give him the money. But because he keeps on asking him in front of this group of people, he feels now shy and he gives him the money not out of his own goodwill. He doesn't want to, but because he feels shy now in front of this group of people. And that other person who is asking for the money, he knows this. He knows that this money was not given to him out of the goodwill of the giver. So he is not to consume that money. He is not to take that money and consume it, okay? Whether by buying food, buying something else with it, he is not to take that money. Whether he asks another person for money or maybe for something else, a piece of clothing, for example, and he takes it knowing that the giver did not give it to him out of goodwill, rather out of shyness, because he was in front of other people that he felt shy from, for example. So one needs to be careful in such matters, subhanallah, and we really ought to know when we are taking things or when we are taking money, am I taking that from a lawful source or not? The pleasures of this life are short, and eventually we will die. And then there will be resurrection, and we will be questioned. It was mentioned in a hadith of the Prophet والسلام, that among the matters that the person will be questioned about on the day of judgment is about his money. From where did he receive it? And how did he spend it? Subhanallah. Some people might steal money and then they think, okay, they will uh, use part of that money to build a mosque. But that doesn't mean that you did not commit a sin by stealing the money in the first place. Subhanallah, one really needs to be careful here. From where am I taking this money? Some people might think, oh, but it's, for my children. I want to give them a better life. I want to give them what they desire. But by you taking money from an unlawful source, that doesn't make it good. Even if you say, but this is for your children to give them a better life, that is not good. And it is not good to feed your children from an unlawful source. Subhanallah, the person who is smart needs to be really keen on watching what he is putting in his mouth, what is he consuming into his body. It has an effect on us. When the person keeps on consuming what is unlawful, this has an impact on us. So we need to be really careful and think that even if the person takes now money through an unlawful way, such as stealing, and let's say he uses that money to buy a car or to buy a particular piece of clothing, as we said, the pleasures of this life are very short-lived. And eventually then the person will be in the grave. And subhanallah, what benefits the person in the grave are his good deeds, So it's better for us, not to live in a luxurious way. Be content with little sustenance that is halal, that is from a lawful source. Let us be content with little sustenance that suffices us and it is from a halal, lawful source, and raise our children to be content also with little sustenance. Okay, because if you now give them a lavish lifestyle, let's say because you are able to do that, you have the money to do that, but one day you might not be able to. And they have become accustomed to this lifestyle. And all of a sudden they don't have that anymore. What might they do? They have become accustomed to this lavish lifestyle. They might then commit sins in order to gain money through unlawful ways. And you don't want that for your children, not for yourself and not for your children. So, subhanAllah, let the person be content with little sustenance that is from a lawful source. And if one has more, to always remember the people who are in need. There are people, some of us might think that we are deprived of particular things, that we are poor, but then you hear about other people who have a lot less than you. And you then realize that actually we have a lot of blessings, subhanAllah. So we say Alhamdulillah for the blessings that we have. Let us use them in what is of benefit. Suffice with that. And when we have more, to think of the people who are in more need, to help them out. And what is very important to help with nowadays is to spread the true knowledge, the knowledge that our Prophet ﷺ taught the companions. So one of the good ways to use one's money is to spend it in spreading the true creed, spreading Islam, because today you and I are seeing how the enemies of Islam are exerting great effort and lots of money in order, subhanAllah, to fight Islam and sway people away from Islam. And we know that people today have a great need of learning, of acquiring the religious knowledge. So one of the very good ways for us in spending our money is to spend it in spreading Islam, spreading the true knowledge. And Ramadan is coming soon. So I remind you that in Ramadan, the reward of the good deeds is multiplied more. So to strive and do more and more good deeds in Ramadan, to give the poor and spend the money in spreading the true belief. Inshallah ta'ala, in our next lesson, we will talk about another category. Inshallah. Barakallahu bikum. Amin wa fikum, my dear sister. And Allah ta'ala knows best. We will say tahleel lillah